Hi, welcome back to the Raw Experience. This is Karen Valinsky Matheson from The Naked Grief.
And this is Melissa Bishop from Wholehearted Studio. Today we're exploring grief and life's complex emotions through the lens of friends to help you recognize and heal your own invisible losses.
Today's episode we are calling The Daydreams Felt Far Away, and we're analyzing or breaking apart Friends episode 4, known as the one with George Stephanopoulos. So, just to do a little bit of a reminder, refresher as to what this episode's about, um, the girls end up doing a quote slumber party at Monica's and notice or find out that George Stephanopoulos is staying in the apartment across from them. So they spend a good portion of the episode oogling over George, while the guys, Chandler and Joey, have an extra ticket to a hockey game and invite Ross along. And Ross realizes that the date is the anniversary of his first time being intimate with Carol. And it's probably one of my favorite episodes. The way Ross is triggered by so many things throughout the episode, the way he remembers and reflects and wants to just share all these experience or all these memories of the experience that he had, and watching how Joey and Chandler change while Ross keeps talking about it. At first they're really supportive. Great, okay, I get it. They're walking to the subway or to the game. I'm not sure how they got there, but while they're walking, they walk by a storefront and Ross has to pause and he gets all sentimental when he sees a pair of boots that remind him of Carol. And then he sees a peach pit and it reminds him of some other fruit that they ate together that night. And then they pass a sign that says bus stop, and that triggers him on, oh, and then I walked her to the bus. And they start to get just a little edgy with it. And then they get to the game, and Ross sighs and goes, oh. And one of them snaps. I can't remember which one. And they're like, what? Carol sat in a seat at a hockey game too? And he was like, no, I was just commenting that we're not all sitting together. There were two seats behind one. So Ross sat one row in front of them. But see, they were expecting it.
Right.
And I think this is what we see a lot of times when we have people that in our lives that are grieving. We want to show up, but there's only so much that we can help carry for them or hold with them until we hit a breaking point. And we start seeing that with Chandler and Joey throughout the episode. Like they want to, they also don't completely get it until Ross finally explains that, well, after Ross gets hit in the face with a hockey puck and they end up in the ER and he starts reminiscing some more, Joey, I think, is the one that says, all right, it was your first time. You were with her 7 years after that. What's the big deal? And then Ross explains that it was his first time ever. And then it's like, oh, now I understand. And you watch things shift a little bit with being a little bit more empathetic and a little bit more understanding. But again, like we all have our limits as to how much we can help. It's why support systems break down. We, as those that are grieving and emotionally hurting, want people to show up for us. We don't always vocalize how we need them to show up. Sometimes we just want them to listen. Other times we want the distraction. And the hockey game got him to stop talking about it until he was in physical pain. And I think that triggered the emotional pain, which got him to start talking about it again.
Yeah, I think this episode outlines a lot of grief triggers, like how memories hijack present moments, and how there's challenge in supporting someone's grief and helping them in that process, and that there can be a delicate balance between empathy and, frankly, emotional fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely. And they tried to give him a safe space to emotionally process until it felt repetitive, which is kind of why we have our support community, because it's a space where people can come and not be judged and not feel like they're being a burden on anybody that is in their physical support circle that may be reaching that emotional fatigue. That's what we're here for, is to help them feel safe to honor what they're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, when those intimate memories come up for someone who's grieving, it is hard for someone else to truly connect with that and fully understand it because, frankly, they weren't there for the experience. So, as they're trying to hold space and this person's being so vulnerable, it's easy to not say the right thing or to not know what to say. So, you say nothing, which happens often, right? Or you're like, well, I don't want to overburden them, so you don't check in when maybe you should just send that text thinking of you, right? Because this, what we need to do and try to be able to do is hold a safe space for emotional processing. And that's what our group will do for people. And it'll also validate those complex feelings because you'll understand that you're not alone and there'll be other people in the group who have experienced it.
And you feed off of each other with your experiences. And that's so helpful when you see up, because whatever loss we experience, it's unique to us. And yet the feelings that are felt through those losses, those are often very much shared. And like, okay, you and I have both had relationships end.
Yep.
Yours ended because of a divorce. Mine ended because of a death. Still the death of a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And the way you work through it is very similar. It's still a loss. It's adjusting to how you raise your kid, how you function on a daily basis, how you move through things, and who's going to be there in your village to help lift you back up when you need something. Whether it's getting your kid from school or running to the grocery store because your car broke down or whatever it is in between. But the journeys are always similar, even if the way you got there isn't.
I would agree. And I think when we're grieving too, one of the most complicated questions that someone can ask sometimes is, what do you need? Because you don't always know. Um, Sometimes it's just present. So don't get frustrated with people when they don't really respond to that. Do keep checking in. Try not to take it personal because it's not. It's just that they're in their process and they're still trying to re identify who they are without this person in their life. Whether the relationship was enmeshed or not, there is an identity change when a relationship ends.
Very much so. And it's kind of like what we said in the very first episode when we were defining the whole disenfranchised grief part. Even if it's a choice that you're making, like Rachel leaving Barry, it's still a grief process. It's still recognizing that I have to figure out who I am now. And what do I like?
Right.
What did I do because of him that maybe not something I really actually am excited about?
Right. And I wanted to touch on this part of this where there's reflection about Rachel and her journey of becoming independent. And there's some um, similarities between that and even divorce. It's like you go from one income to go from two to one income. Like so you have to reevaluate that. Your lifestyle changes. You don't know you don't have the same mechanisms of comfort that you used to have, even though it may be in the best interest of you emotionally. Then there's this financial part of it that comes into play too.
Yeah. And I think that's really tough with anybody that's struggling in a relationship. It's easier to stay so that you don't experience those challenges and you hope things will get better. But speaking of Rachel, one of the other things that she has happened to her through the episode is the credit card companies keep following up with her and wanting to know if she's okay.
Right.
And she keeps putting it off and putting it off. And Phoebe becomes the philosopher in this episode and says, "You're like Jack." Jack who? Like Jack with the magic beans from Jack and the Beanstalk. He sold his cow, got magic beans, and he made something with them. And at the end of the episode, when Rachel's back around everybody in the group in Monica's apartment, credit card company calls again, and they just wanted to know if she's okay. And she says, "Yeah, I have magic beans," because she has her support system. And that's huge. So, yeah, even though sometimes our support system may show up in ways that doesn't match what we think we need, recognizing that they are there is so, so, so important.
Yeah, and there's some deeper themes in this episode that I'd like to touch on. And I want to bring it back to Ross and that what he considered sometimes like being a burden for sharing his emotions and not knowing even how to fully express them sometimes. And again, like you just talked about, the friends and their mixed support responses, right? You have Chandler, who's comic, and Joey, who's pragmatic. So you have all of these different things coming at you. And then there's that social dance of vulnerability where it's really difficult anymore to show vulnerability and feel like it's going to be okay.
That's very true. And yeah, it's so many different things. But that's where we get to choose who we want in those circles, whether it's friends, family, a professional,
Mhm.
whoever it is that's going to listen, who's going to help keep us healing and helping us transform from our individual pain into a collective strength, and that's powerful.
And this is something I want to remind everybody about. And this was actually something that I had to learn myself was as someone who's supporting someone who's grieving, we need to remember to listen without trying to fix it. 'Cause most often, the person just needs to be heard. They're the ones that have to do the fixing. Just being heard can mean more than anything.
And it's interesting. So when I was in school, one of the things that they said is listen, but don't try and mirror back an experience. And yet, at least when I'm in all these other groups, that's what resonates with me. Is somebody will post something about a loss that they've had, and the people that just say my condolences or praying for you or whatever, that's great. But when somebody says I'm so sorry, I experienced something similar, and they tell their story, and then they end it with, I hope you're able to find something that helped you the way I did. Like, I learned from that.
Right.
And so it's interesting that you're told not to do, but at the same time, I feel like trying to create that relatable connection does make you feel more seen.
Right. And that's different than trying to give them a fix, which when you try to fix something, you're giving somebody something else to do when they're already in a position where they don't feel like they can do another thing. So, as we close up this episode, uh, I want people to think about how friendships can become a healing mechanism and how it can help with transforming individual pain. Because then you have collective strength, just like you were talking about, right? When people can relate to each other, they feel less alone. And the power of being able to choose family in your grief journey.
And remembering that some of these folks are with us just for those certain moments in time. Give yourself the grace to let them go. Forgive them if they're not supposed to stay. Um, and they come and go. They ebb and flow with the tide. Some folks show up immediately when you need them, and then they've got their own stuff. So give them the space they need, and when you're supposed to be in connection again, it will happen. It may take a few years, but it'll happen. If they're supposed to be in your world, they'll come back. Um, so we want to invite you guys to examine your own personal first time grief moments. Please share that with us. We'd love to expand on this in further discussion. And how do you recognize and honor your own unique grief? And what kind of magic beans have you had in your life? Those are always kind of fun.
Yes, I love that. So, and we'll see you in our next episode. And we look forward to it. Drop a line if you want to chat.